Thank you again. Now let's begin with our question and answer session. Please allow me to ask the first question. Dr. Briscoe, you said new pressures for smaller government and less government through privatization of government programs is changing attitudes about the proper role of governments and other political values around the world. Do you think this is also applicable to educational services?
Yes. I believe public education reform, as well as reform in other key government sectors, such as energy and health, to streamline and privatize where possible, is an essential step that all governments must make in the coming years to respond to the new expectations and demands of society, regardless of ideology or traditions. For example, we see in the United States a strong move to privately run elementary and secondary schools in an attempt to create more options and flexibility in design of curriculums and a move away from traditional public schools.
You mentioned that nearly half of the global GDP growth between 2010 and 2025 will come from 440 cities in emerging markets. We are certainly entering the age of urbanization. What can you envision for rural economies and agriculture?
I believe technology will play a major role to link and incorporate small rural economies to the exploding urban economies. For example, the use of cell phones to more effectively link small farmers to urban markets, ensuring that they receive top prices for their produce. In addition, agriculture will also need to innovate with sustainable systems that leverage and protect the environment with more effective water and land management. Technologies given that these will be increasingly precious resources.
Sure.
Water will become more valuable than oil, if it isn't already.
Thank you. I have another question. The aging global population is an incredibly newer reality for all of us. Some developing nations still have a large young generation and are not visualizing the changes that will be needed to provide the required health, caring, and human services as soon as their population becomes older. Do you think socialized healthcare services for all will be the primary solution?
For poor and emerging countries, I do. But for industrialized economies such as the United States, I believe a mix of the two is probably necessary to make sure the lower and middle income levels of society can have access.
Thank you. Another question. You explained with eloquence that leaders must now master the duality of focus and agility to be effective in the new world of change and chaos we all face, and that our lack of clarity of our organizational and business environment is a major challenge to traditional management strategies and execution of plans. How can we change the mentality and culture to emphasize execution, implementation, and results, particularly in government organizations?
I do think that new generation leaders and managers must be able to inspire and generate commitment to results, not just strategies and plans, so that we can translate our potential and skills to results. Talking and proposing must now give way to actions and results if we want to succeed.
Thank you for your response. One more question. You mentioned knowledge sharing as one of the 10 management practices that differentiate the most agile companies. Global knowledge sharing has been the mission of ITC programs such as this one for over 30 years now. Is this the end of the tradition of protecting and keeping our knowledge secret like Coca-Cola and others have done for years?
Not really, but there is a clear shift to open source and shared knowledge protocols to pursue win-win and networked collaborative arrangements that allow us to leverage the technology and productive resources already available in our sector of business or in other sectors to make us more competitive and effective with our own products and services.
Dennis, for the past 30 years, we've seen a global trend toward urbanization. Here in the United States and in Europe, millennials are tending to leave the suburbs and want to live in the center cities. But we hear that in many countries, the policy of government and perhaps the will of the people is to move out of these congested urban areas into more rural and suburban settings. What impact is this going to have as a disruptive force? And can you put on your wizard's hat and predict which trend is going to prevail?
The question of which will prevail, that's not telling the future.
Sure.
In most developing countries, the trend of people moving from the rural areas where they've still had high birth rates, there's no work, is to move to the urban centers. So the cities are growing, but there are not enough jobs in the urban centers. So it's causing poverty in a way that they haven't experienced before. So taking care of poor people, providing services, food, and whatnot, is an issue. Yes, in some of the big countries like China, people are beginning to move back home, back to their rural homes that they grew up in. And China's encouraging that because the cities can't handle the growth and they don't have jobs for the people that who've all moved into the center. The U.S., there's some, as has been suggested, some shifting in what's happening. Millennials like the kind of housing that's available and the closeness, although they're on their cell phones all the time, so it may be hard to understand why that's happening. Will there be a coalescing around the world? I think it's going to be a long time before all countries are experiencing the same shifts. If I were to predict, which is what I just said we can't do anymore because we don't know,
Right.
I think the urbanization is going to continue. Going to continue, which means we're going to be, it's going to be increasingly necessary to find ways to support huge numbers of people
Sure.
in urban centers around the world. Europeans are, you
Sure.
can pick the centers of size there.
With all the issues of water pollution, infrastructure.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We hope you've enjoyed participating once again in this exciting multilingual and multinational program. For further references and studies, you can consult your valuable ITC Participants Manual. I would like to remind all our viewers who are interested in registering for the 2016 ITC Annual Series Diploma to contact the coordinator of your host institution to learn about the particular requirements for obtaining this certificate. We invite all our participating organizations to continue promoting in your communities our noble mission of sharing knowledge for a better world. Our second video conference of the year 2016 series, Entrepreneurship and Reinvention in a New World, airing June 2nd. For additional information on this 2016 video conference series and its basic certification requirements, as well as dates and specific topics for other upcoming programs, please visit the ITC portal, www.itcsandiego.com, or contact ITC directly. I would like to invite all organizational members of the ITC Global Knowledge Network to visit and use at ITC's website the MAC Virtual Video Library, the most extensive instructional video resource in the world today, where you can access all of ITC's past video conferences in both English in Spanish. We remind you that all ITC programs are created and copyrighted to Miguel A. Cardenas and may not be taped, stored, reproduced, retransmitted in any form, in whole or in part, without written consent of the author. On behalf of all of us, I thank you for your ongoing participation and interest in this unique program. Thank you, and see you soon.